I stood there in the blazing Colorado sun, squinting at the vacant space where our car had been just 10 minutes earlier. My wife, Chloe, along with her pals Isla, Stephanie, and Lauren, had pulled a disappearing act. Initially, I figured it was just another one of their silly jokes. They were constantly up to their antics, seeing just how far they could go before I finally lost it. 5 years of marriage, and I had become quite familiar with their playful antics, the way they chuckled at my expense, and how Chloe would chime in rather than defend me. The Naya? This had a unique vibe. My phone was still happily connected to the car charger, while my wallet was snugly resting in the glove box. All I had was the worn-out t-shirt and jeans I was sporting, along with a bubbling unease in my stomach as the minutes dragged on. We'd been on this road trip to Stephanie's lake house for 3 days now, and I was having the time of my life, not. Chloe had practically pleaded with me to join, claiming it would be a perfect opportunity to connect with her crew. I wasn't exactly thrilled about the idea. Her friends always made me feel like the odd one out, throwing playful jabs and sharing inside jokes that flew right over my head, but I still showed up, because my feelings for her were strong. Well, that's what I believed anyway. The gas station was a charming little oasis in the middle of nowhere, complete with a dusty vibe, a flickering sign that seemed to have a personality of its own, and a lone pump standing proudly like a sentinel on the highway. I thought I'd pop in for a quick bathroom break, assuming they'd be patient enough to wait for me. They were always on standby. But this time, they totally dropped the ball. 1 hour ticked by. I strolled along the uneven pavement, nudging pebbles with my foot, convincing myself they'd return at any moment, tires crunching on the gravel, Chloe's voice ringing out, "Gotcha." However, the road remained eerily silent. After 2 hours, I was practically a walking waterfall, with sweat cascading down my neck, and my throat felt like a desert. I couldn't help but go over the last few days in my mind, like a catchy tune that just won't leave me alone. The look on Stephanie's face when she unintentionally splashed coffee all over my lap was priceless. How Lauren leaned in to whisper something to Chloe, causing her to burst into giggles while stealing a glance at me. How Isla just sat there, that cheeky little smile on her face, taking it all in. I really should have seen that one coming. They were clearly gearing up for something big, and I was just too oblivious to catch on. A truck rolled in, its engine growling like a bear, jolting me right out of my daydreams. The driver, a hefty fellow sporting a gray beard and a well-worn ball cap, leaned out the window with a grin. "Everything good with you, pal? I've been hanging out here for quite some time now." His voice was like sandpaper wrapped in a warm hug, and it knocked the wind out of me. I was not okay at all. Looks like they decided to take a permanent vacation. Chloe de Kong Ko Wai Din Quay Lai Dao. I gulped, making an effort to sound calm and composed. "Yeah, my ride totally ditched me. Do you really think you can lend a hand?" He nodded, as if this was just another day in the life of a stranded soul. "Nai Vod now. So, what's your destination?" "Oh, I had no idea." Let's return to Chloe. The life we crafted together. But as I hopped into the cab, a little something wiggled around inside me. 5 years of her chuckling at my expense, waving me away, and allowing her friends to make a mockery of me. Everything came flooding back, intense and overwhelming. I gazed out the window, watching the gas station become a tiny dot in the side mirror. The trucker didn't pry much, just kept on rolling, humming a tune from the good old country days. My hands balled up into tight little fists resting on my lap. I could have snagged his phone, dialed up Chloe, and grilled her for answers. But what on earth would she say? "It was just a little fun, sweetheart. Lighten up a bit." Oh, I've definitely heard that one before. Whenever I voiced my grievances about her friends, she'd give me that classic eye roll and insist that I just didn't understand their sense of humor. Perhaps I didn't, who knows? Perhaps I just might not. But standing there all by myself, feeling as forsaken as a lost puppy, I came to a realization. They missed me too. They con Chloe T saw? She'd choose them over me, time and time again. The trucker kindly let me out at a crossroad, gesturing towards Grand Junction, the closest town. "What a way to travel, right? Best of luck, buddy," he said, giving a playful nod with his cap. Tightening my throat, I gave a nod and began to stroll away. My shoes kicked up the dirt, while the sun blazed down on my head like it was trying to fry an egg up there. Kong Dain Thoai, Kong Tin, Kong Kahoch. Just me and the endless stretch of asphalt, ready for whatever comes next. Part of me was tempted to do a U-turn, to charm someone at the gas station into dialing her number, to somehow make everything right again. Yet, there was this other, much louder voice that just wouldn't let me stop moving ahead. I was over being the butt of the joke, over being the one they found amusing. Chloe and her friends were convinced they had triumphed, convinced they had finally gotten the best of me. But as I plodded my way to Grand Junction, an odd sense of tranquility washed over me. They didn't manage to crack me. They'd let me loose. I had no idea what surprises that town had in store for me. I had no clue how I'd manage to eat, where I'd crash for the night, or how I'd survive with absolutely nothing. For the first time in ages, I found myself completely unbothered by Chloe's opinion. I wasn't the least bit concerned about what her friend would do next. I might have been solo, but I definitely wasn't out of options. The road lay before me, stretching on, a vast expanse of nothingness, and I just kept putting one foot in front of the other. They ditched me, but hey, maybe that was the smartest move they could have pulled off. Perhaps this was my opportunity to discover my true self, free from her, free from them. As the sun began its descent, painting the sky in shades of orange, I had already made my decision. I had no intention of returning. Definitely not for Chloe, and certainly not for that kind of life. Whatever came next, I was ready to craft it my way. I found myself at that dusty crossroad where the trucker had kindly let me out, with the Colorado wind playfully swirling little dust devils around my feet. Grand Junction was out there somewhere, but here I was, mapless, phoneless, and completely broke. Only the outfit I'm wearing and a mind swirling with a whirlwind of ideas. Chloe and her friends had totally ditched me, and I couldn't help but feel a little tug in my heart to somehow reach out, hear her voice, and insist she make a U-turn. But then it hit me how she had chuckled when Stephanie clumsily spilled my beer at the lake house, and how she had just shrugged when I asked her to back me up. 5 years of that, 5 years of feeling like I was just crashing at my own wedding party. Oh no, I wasn't trying to reach her at all. Not a chance this time. I began my stroll into town, my sneakers making a delightful crunch on the gravel beneath me. The sun was blazing overhead, turning the ground into a frying pan, and I was practically marinating in my own sweat. I had no clue how many miles away Grand Junction was, but honestly, it didn't bother me at all. Each step was a little decision, as if I was gradually bidding her farewell with every footprint I left behind. My thoughts kept wandering back to the gas station. To that moment I emerged from that questionable bathroom and was greeted by nothing but barren asphalt. So, they had it all figured out, right? Chloe, Stephanie, Isla, Lauren, all bursting into laughter in the car as they sped away, clearly finding it amusing to leave me behind. I could practically hear Chloe chiming in, "He'll sort it out, he always manages to do so." Well, I was trying to figure it out now, just not in the way she had in mind. A pickup truck chugged along, and I gave a thumbs up, crossing my fingers for a ride. The driver, a dude sporting a scruffy beard and a well-worn flannel shirt, eased off the gas and poked his head out the window. "Looking for a lift?" he asked, looking at me as if I might be the source of some mischief. "Oh sure, off to Grand Junction," I said, maintaining my calm demeanor. He gave a little nod. "Nai VOD now. I'm heading in that direction." I hopped into the passenger seat, feeling relieved for a little time off. The cab reeked of oil and cigarettes, but hey, it was definitely better than hoofing it. "What's the tale behind your adventures?" he inquired while we cruised along the road. I paused for a moment, then gave a nonchalant shrug. Ended up being ditched by folks I really thought were in my corner. He let out a sound, as if he was all too familiar with that one. It occurs more often than you might imagine around here. He let me out on the outskirts of Grand Junction, right by a bunch of small buildings and a traffic light that seemed to be having a little dance party. "Be good, buddy," he said and zoomed away. I just stood there, soaking it all up with a grin. A quaint little town where charming old brick storefronts play hide and seek with shiny new chain stores. Everyone's just strolling through their day as if everything's perfectly fine. But honestly, everything was just a bit off for me. Cha ko six down nay. Without an ID, I was just a ghost wandering around, unable to show anyone who I really was. I was in a bit of a pickle and needed a quick hand. I came across a sign for a homeless shelter just a few blocks away, a rather unassuming building with a cross splashed on the side. My stomach did a little dance at the thought. Me in a cozy little nook? Well, what other options were there for me? Inside, it was all moody lighting and the delightful aroma of bleach mixed with yesterday's coffee. A fellow at the counter glanced up. Roy, that's what his name tag proclaimed. He was older, perhaps around 50, sporting a shaved head and a serious gaze that suggested he meant business. Did you misplace it or just give it a little too much love? He inquired, giving me a once-over. Both, I confessed, giving the back of my neck a good rub. Got left hanging on the highway. Cha ko dong now siye. Kong ko dien thoi. Kong ko gi si. Roy kept his eyes wide open. Chien du kong ben thuong thoi. Do you have a name, or should I just call you, hey you? Absolutely. I mentioned, thinking it would be simpler to just go with the honest route for the time being. He passed me a clipboard with a form, looking like it was the most exciting thing in the world. Go ahead and complete this. We'll hook you up with a cozy spot to crash for the night. Gay mai, chung ta si tim ra fan con lai. That night, I found myself sprawled on a cot in a room packed with a chorus of snoring strangers, gazing up at the ceiling. My brain just wouldn't take a break. Chloe's face kept making surprise appearances. Her voice, her laugh, oh what a delightful combination. I tried to muster up some hatred for her, but deep down, there was still a little part of me hoping she'd appear and declare it was all just a big mix-up. But Roy's words lingered in my mind, like a catchy tune you can't shake off. Gay mai, chung ta si tim ra fan con lai. He was all business. The following morning, he plopped me down with a cup of coffee that barely qualified as such and a scheme that was anything but ordinary. Without ID, good luck trying to do anything. Job hunting, banking, you name it. It might take a little while, but we'll kick things off soon. In the meantime, you're gonna need some dough. I nodded, feeling like a total flop. Kong ko cho now tuen dong si? I inquired. Roy grinned slyly. There's a quirky little diner just down the street. The owner is a real character, an old tough cookie named Jacqueline. Just let her know I sent you over. The diner was a charmingly compact spot named Jackie's, featuring bright red vinyl booths and a jukebox tucked away in the corner. Jacqueline was stationed behind the counter, a lean woman in her 60s adorned with tattoos that twisted up her arms and a voice that could scratch glass. Roy thinks you could use a little something to keep you busy, she remarked, her eyes glued to the counter as she wiped it down. Absolutely I do, I responded, adjusting my stance with a playful wiggle. Whatever you've got, bring it on. She narrowed her eyes at me, as if attempting to peer right into my soul. The dishwasher decided to take a little vacation yesterday. Low pay, endless hours. Take something from me, and you'll be in big trouble. Bat down na ID now. I blinked, a bit taken aback, but gave a nod. Alrighty then. Count me in. She flung an apron my way, and before I knew it, I was in the back, scrubbing plates with hot water practically turning my hands into prunes. It wasn't a lot, but hey, it was definitely something and it was all mine. No Chloe, no friends laughing at me, just me and a stack of greasy dishes. Roy swung by later that week and gave me a hand with filing for a replacement ID. You're doing just fine, Mike, he said, giving me a friendly pat on the shoulder. I had my doubts, but I pressed on anyway. The shelter turned into my cozy nest, while Jacqueline's diner was my saving grace. Oh, I totally skipped calling Chloe, not even a single attempt. Every night I fell asleep exhausted, but it was a pleasant kind of tiredness. I was beginning anew, from scratch, and it seemed like perhaps, just perhaps, I could pull it off. Each morning, I found myself on that cot in the shelter, greeted by the familiar twinge in my back and the symphony of snores and coughs from the other guys nearby. It had been a couple of weeks since Chloe and her friends left me hanging at that gas station, and I was still trying to adjust to this unexpected twist in my life. Washing dishes at Jacqueline's diner, crashing on a borrowed bed, sporting outfits from a donation bin. My hands were feeling like they had just gone through a tough workout from the hot water and soap, but hey, no biggie. It occupied my time and distracted me from thinking about her. Roy had been a lifesaver, guiding me through the chaotic adventure of getting a new ID. "It takes a bit of time," he remarked, passing me a pile of forms, "but trust me, you'll make it." I nodded, appreciating his rough charm, and continued to forge ahead. The diner had become my entire universe. Jacqueline was all business. She'd shout commands from the counter, her keen gaze spotting every blunder. "Hurry up, Mike, we don't have forever," she'd shout, but it was all in good fun. I took on double shifts whenever possible, stuffing cash into a small envelope hidden under my cot. My first paycheck was a tiny little thing, but it was just enough to snag a bargain prepaid phone from the gas station down the street. I cradled it in my hands, the plastic gleaming, and a wave of something resembling pride washed over me. It wasn't extravagant, but it had my name on it, purchased with my hard-earned cash, not Chloe's, not anyone else's. She was no longer necessary for me. And just like that, the call kicked off. It was just a day into having the phone when it decided to buzz in my pocket while I was knee-deep in bubbles. I gave my hands a quick wipe on my apron and then fluffed it out with a flourish. Chloe's number popped up on the screen, making me raise an eyebrow. My stomach did a little somersault. I let it ring, eyeing it as if it could take a chunk out of me, until it finally decided to go to voicemail. Just a minute later, the notification decided to make its grand entrance. I really shouldn't have paid attention, but guess what? I did anyway. Her voice came through, all wobbly and gentle, as if she had been rehearsing her lines for a grand performance. "Hey Mike, where in the world are you hiding? We were on the edge of our seats waiting for you." It was merely a playful jest. "We're really concerned. Give me a ring when you can." I found myself just standing there, gazing at the sink, with the water merrily flowing on. Lo lang ah? They just dropped me off in the most random place with absolutely nada. If they had just held on a bit longer, they'd be back by now, wouldn't they? The phone buzzed once more, and guess who it was? Stephanie, of course. I pressed play on her voicemail, and wow, her vibe was completely off the charts. All self-satisfied and laid back. "Oh, come on, my friend. You've got to agree, it was absolutely side-splitting. Give us a ring back, okay? Vo kung buon koi." I gripped the phone with such intensity that my knuckles turned a ghostly shade of white. That's exactly how I was in their eyes. One-liner. A tale to chuckle over while sipping drinks at the lake house. After that, the calls just kept rolling in. A whole bunch of them. Chloe again, followed by Lauren, and then Stephanie, all stacking up with texts and voicemails. "We're really missing you around here. Where did you wander off to? This has lost its charm." I flipped through them all, feeling a mix of anxiety and confusion swirling around in my mind. Chloe's words just wouldn't stop bouncing around. Insincere worry, phony sobs. She was totally unfazed. Not a single one did. I plopped down on my cot that night, the shelter all hush-hush except for the squeaky springs and the cozy hum of the heater. The phone shimmered in my grip, their messages dancing across the screen. I gave Chloe's first one another spin, then moved on to Stephanie's, and finally I checked out Lauren's, which was just her laughter before it abruptly ended. My thumb was just chilling above the call button, contemplating its next move. One part of me was itching to call Chloe, ready to unleash a torrent of questions and exclamations about her choices. "And hung du ko thay doi duok gi kong nhai?" She'd just chuckle it away, or shed a few tears to make me feel all sorts of guilty, just like she always managed to do. I had wasted years gulping down their nonsense, plastering on a grin because I believed that was the duty of a decent husband. Kongkan nuadao. I took a peek at the list. Chloe, Stephanie, Isla, Lauren, Vadachan het tatsie moinux. My fingers trembled slightly as I carried it out, but once it was finished, the phone fell into a hush. Enough with the buzzing, enough with the fibs. I slumped against the wall, releasing a breath I didn't even realize was stuck in there. It was like finally slicing through a knot I'd been stuck in forever. Looks like they won't be able to get to me at this moment. They had no say in how this would wrap up. Oh, I totally did. The following day, I strolled back into the diner as if everything was perfectly normal, diving my hands into the soapy water, allowing the warmth to wash away the remnants of their chatter in my mind. Jacqueline couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss, though. "You're awfully quiet today," she remarked, playfully tossing me a rag to wipe down the counter. Ruckus. I just shrugged it off, not really in the mood to dive into that conversation. Just tidying up a few things here and there. She let out a little snort. "As long as it doesn't interfere with my kitchen, go ahead and sort to your heart's content." I couldn't help but chuckle at that. She was all about the job, completely unfazed by my drama. It was quite a breath of fresh air. Roy swung by later, casually tossing me a paper with a case number for my ID, like it was just another day at the office. He mentioned it was progressing nicely. "Are you managing to stay afloat?" I gave a little nod. "Oh wow, this is actually more impressive than I expected." He gave me a friendly pat on the shoulder and sauntered off, leaving me to handle things on my own. By the end of the week, I had managed to stash away enough cash to snag a second-hand jacket from the shelter's donation pile. Nothing too extravagant, but it definitely did the trick to warm things up. Every night, I strolled back to my cot, the prepaid phone quiet in my pocket, and I couldn't help but feel a bit more carefree. Chloe and her friends had vanished, snipped away like an unwanted trend. I wasn't looking for their apologies or their excuses. I had my job, my cozy bed, my little plans, just tiny treasures, but they were all mine. The ache was still hanging around, no doubt about it, that pesky sting of betrayal, but it was starting to fade away. With every plate I polished and every penny I saved, I was crafting a little masterpiece of my own. Something they just couldn't get their hands on. And for the first time in ages, I drifted off without a single thought of her dancing in my mind. I've been hanging out at the diner for months, and let me tell you, things are finally starting to feel like they're on solid ground. Not flawless, but consistent. The shelter was still my home, but I had managed to save enough to move into a cozy little studio perched above a laundromat in Grand Junction. It was nothing fancy, just a tiny room with a bumpy mattress, a hot plate, and a bathroom so cramped I could hardly spin around in it. But it's mine. Goodbye to cots and the symphony of snores from random folks. Just me, a key in my pocket, and a door I can finally lock. Jacqueline had noticed me working my fingers to the bone at the diner and decided to promote me to prep cook, which came with extra hours and a bit more money in my pocket. I'd be in the back, chopping onions and peeling potatoes, the knife's rhythm keeping my hands occupied and my thoughts at ease. It was tough, but it felt satisfying, like I was actually getting something worthwhile. The nights were still quite the challenge, I must say. I'd find myself sprawled on that squeaky mattress, gazing at the water stains on the ceiling, and somehow, Chloe would sneak into my thoughts. I remember her smile, the sound of her laughter, not the sharp one she shared with her friends, but the gentle one reserved for me when everything was right, before I found myself on the receiving end of her frustrations. I couldn't help but ponder what she might be up to, whether she thought of me at all, or if I even crossed her mind. The loneliness could be a real kicker at times, a chilly burden sitting heavy in my chest that just wouldn't budge. But then, morning would roll around, and I'd haul myself out of bed, throw on my jacket, and make my way to the diner. Without a worry about her opinions, no sharp remarks from her pals, just me, liberated to exhale, liberated to exist. One night, after a long shift, I found myself goofing off with my prepaid phone, feeling a bit bored and restless. I thought I had it all figured out, keeping things straightforward, no connections, no reminders of what was behind me. But then, curiosity decided to play its little game with me. I created a totally made-up social media profile with a silly name and no photo, just to see what I could find about her. Chloe's profile appeared, still open for all to see, still showcasing her seemingly flawless little existence. There were snapshots from the lake house adventure, her and Stephanie striking a pose by the water, Isla beaming with a drink in her hand. Then I stumbled upon it, a post that was all about me. It was a photo of us from years ago, grinning at some picnic, and her caption caught me off guard like a surprise punch. Feeling a little empty without my sweetheart around. I really hope he figures out how to come back to me. I gawked at it, my thumb stuck like it was glued to the screen. Are you feeling my absence? She didn't even bother to come back for me. She zoomed away, leaving me to stew in my own misery. I nearly burst out laughing in that shabby apartment, the sound ricocheting off the empty walls. It was all so over the top, like Chloe was putting on a show, acting like she was the one wronged, as if I had just strolled away instead of being left behind. I was browsing the comments when I saw Stephanie reassuring everyone, saying, "He'll show up, no need to fret." Lauren jumping in with, "Sending you big hugs." And my stomach did a little dance. They were all in cahoots, acting like I was the villain in this little drama. I hung up the phone and flung it onto the bed, ruffling my hair in exasperation. She was still the same. Kong ai trong so ho kosi, and hung matwa de ko roy day. I was no longer that guy in the picnic photo, the one who would smile and endure while they picked me apart. I had transformed into a whole new person, a mystery to them. The following day at the diner, I found myself more subdued than normal, still mulling over what I had witnessed. Jacqueline was always on the ball as usual. "You look like you just lost a game of fetch," she quipped, sliding a plate of fries my way during a slow moment. I just shrugged and poked at the food like it was a puzzle I couldn't solve. "Overthinking as usual." She arched an eyebrow, her inked arms folded with a playful defiance. "Vitsigive? That former flame of yours." I was taken aback, astonished that she had figured it out. I never shared the entire tale with her, only fragments here and there. "Sure, I own up to it. Spotted something amusing online. She's putting on quite the show, acting as if she's the one who's been wronged." Jacqueline let out a snort, piercing and unmistakable. "Sounds like quite the character. Finally, you're outta here, kiddo." I nodded, trying to hold back a chuckle. She totally nailed it. Finally, that's over. Work really kept me on my toes. I'd chop up veggies, flip those burgers when the chef needed a buddy, wipe down counters, just keeping the hustle alive. The diner was filled with its usual crowd, people who would give me a friendly nod or drop a few coins on the table, and that brought a warm feeling, as if I belonged to a little community. My hands had turned into tough little warriors, and my arms were flexing with newfound strength from all that crate hauling and pan scrubbing. Every now and then, I'd spot my reflection in the diner's glass door, and let me tell you, it was quite the sight. Weary peepers, a wild mane, yet here's a dude who's navigating life, one quirky step at a time. Chloe's post slipped away from my thoughts, overtaken by the clanging of plates and Jacqueline's no-nonsense voice barking out orders. After that, I decided to give her social media a break. Nope, not necessary. No matter what she was chattering about or the tale she was weaving, it was all irrelevant. I had my little studio, my job, my life, small, yes, but definitely on the rise. The loneliness still popped by, particularly on those quiet nights when the laundromat downstairs hummed and rattled, but it wasn't as piercing anymore. I'd rise to the delightful scent of detergent wafting through the floorboards, slip on my boots, and venture out into the brisk morning air. There wasn't a soul around to sneer at me, nor anyone to dramatically roll their eyes at everything I said. I could just be Mike, nothing fancy, just good old Mike, and that was totally fine. For the first time in ages, I felt like I was on firm footing, not floundering in a pit of quicksand. Freedom wasn't about grand gestures or big spectacles. It was simply this: my key, my paycheck, my choice. Oh, there's no way I'm handing that over. I had been residing above the laundromat for some time, getting cozy in a routine that seemed to fit me just right. Flip burgers at the diner, stash my bucks, and crash in my cozy nook. The days all seemed to merge, yet they were quite enjoyable, consistently pleasant. And just like that, Sienna made her entrance. She began her routine at Jacqueline's diner, showing up twice a week, claiming the same booth by the window, armed with a mountain of textbooks and a pen ready for action. She seemed like a med student, I thought, given how she'd mumble medical jargon to herself while frantically jotting down notes. Her order was always the same: Denver omelet, hold the tomatoes, extra coffee. She hardly glanced up when I delivered it to her. I often found myself chuckling as I watched her get so engrossed in her studying that her fork would linger in midair, poised halfway to her mouth for a whole minute before she finally realized. I can't quite figure out why I decided to poke fun at her. Perhaps it was out of sheer boredom, or maybe I was just curious to see if I could get her to smile. I'd totally switch my name tag with some hilarious made-up names, like Bob one day, Steve the next, and then Carl after that, just to see if she'd even notice. At first, she was completely lost in her books, but one morning I strolled over with Rusty stuck to my shirt, and that finally caught her attention. Her eyes squinted, darting to the tag and then back to my face with a playful glint. "Your name tag is incorrect," she remarked, her tone soft yet resolute, as if she were assessing my condition. I couldn't help but chuckle, completely taken by surprise. "Really?" I fired back, even though my real name was Mike, and she had never bothered to ask. She flashed a sly grin, just a tad, and returned to her notes. That was it, our first genuine moment, and it really lingered with me. Caught up in work, but Sienna turned out to be the best part of my week. She'd waltz in, place her regular order, and I'd come up with all sorts of reasons to drop by her table, top off her coffee, clear away her dishes, and check if she needed anything at all. She'd nod or mumble a thanks, but that smirk lingered in my mind, teasing me like a dare. One day, she burst in, looking like she'd just survived a tornado, her hair a wild mess and her books weighing her down more than ever. "What a night," I said, placing her coffee on the table. She let out a dramatic sigh, dramatically rubbing her eyes as if the weight of the world rested upon her shoulders. "Kimtra. It's been 2 days since I last caught some Z's." I gave a little nod, keeping it low-key, but I couldn't resist sneaking an extra hash brown onto her plate when her back was turned. She caught sight of me, looked up, and said, "You're quite the trickster." I simply shrugged my shoulders. Must find a way to keep those eyelids from drooping. Our first date was totally spontaneous. She waltzed in one evening, all glammed up in jeans and a snazzy top, ditching her usual comfy sweatshirt, and casually mentioned that her friends had flaked on a reservation at some posh pizza joint across town. "I'm not squandering it," she muttered, partly to herself, then turned her gaze toward me. "You silly goose." I was giving the counter a good wipe, my shift nearly done, and Jacqueline was close enough to hear me. "Go on, kiddo," she snapped playfully, shooing me away. "You're not doing me any favors by sulking like that." Well, I decided to go. We shared a pepperoni pizza and a pitcher of soda, and she burst into laughter when I mentioned the name tag incident. "I totally knew it wasn't Rusty," she said, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "You're still quite young at heart." We chatted through the night, covering her med school stress, my diner job, and all sorts of silly things like our favorite movies. It felt so effortless, as if we were old friends from way back when. Half a year later, she decided to make my cozy studio her new home. It was a bit snug. Her books sprawled across half the space, and we'd stumble over one another while trying to whip up dinner on that little hot plate, but honestly, it didn't bother me at all. She'd burn the midnight oil, her lamp casting a warm glow while I dozed off, and I'd rouse to her sleep talking about anatomy like it was the most normal thing in the world. It was oddly reassuring. A year later, we upgraded to a bigger spot, a genuine apartment complete with a kitchen and a couch that didn't have that delightful scent of bleach. Sienna had her own unique flair compared to Chloe. She didn't tease me, didn't belittle me. Whenever I found myself second-guessing, she'd chime in with a simple, "You've got this," and just like that, I'd feel a surge of confidence. We'd whip up meals side by side, binge on classic TV shows, and bicker about who was responsible for the dishes piling up in the sink. It was straightforward, yet it held a special charm for us. In the meantime, Chloe was holding on tight. She began sending me emails, managed to track down my address somehow, likely from an old bill or something similar. The first one appeared a few weeks after Sienna settled in, surprising me on my phone while I was slicing peppers at the diner. "Mike, I just want to check in and see if you're doing all right," it said. "I'm really missing you right now. Chick-chan lave Roy." I gazed at it, my knife playfully suspended above the cutting board. "No toi Kong?" She ditched me at a gas station, had a good chuckle with her friends about it, and now suddenly she's feeling nostalgic? "Toi de zoa no ma Kong contraloi." More followed, some brief, some lengthy, each oozing with that sugary insincerity she'd perfected. Well, I really tripped over that one, didn't I? Come on, let's have a chat. I spotted your grandma, and let me tell you, she's got that classic worried look going on. I would totally check those out. Experience that familiar pang in my heart, then just wipe it away. Sienna spotted me once, scowling at my phone. "Who could that be?" she inquired with a playful grin. "Not a soul," I declared, and she let it go. She really didn't have to. I had no intention of going back. Life with Sienna was great, even more delightful than I ever imagined I could have. The diner was buzzing with life, my hands were as calm as ever, and Chloe's emails? Just background chatter I could easily ignore. I had crafted something fresh, something sturdy, and each day with Sienna just confirmed it. She'd poke fun at my cooking skills, I'd chuckle at her off-key singing, and we'd drift off to sleep all wrapped up on that old couch. Chloe could scribble away to her heart's content, but I wasn't about to owe her anything. My universe was right here, with Sienna, and there was no way I was letting it slip away. I found myself in the kitchen of Jacqueline's diner, flipping a burger on the grill, the delightful sizzle filling the air while grease playfully popped against my apron. Everything was going quite well. Funnier than just okay, honestly. Sienna and I were cozy in our new apartment, a delightful upgrade from the tiny studio above the laundromat. It boasted a genuine bedroom, a stove that was surprisingly smoke-free, and a window that actually welcomed in some sunlight. Life felt like a sturdy ladder, as if I had finally scrambled out of the pit Chloe and her crew had dug for me. Work was pretty chill too. I had been at the diner long enough that Jacqueline actually trusted me with more than just washing dishes and prepping food. She began to rely on me, growling less and giving more approving nods when I nailed it. That day, she summoned me to the counter during a quiet moment. Her piercing gaze fixed on me as if she was about to drop a bombshell. "Mike," she remarked, giving her hands a quick wipe on a rag. "You're actually pretty decent at this." I couldn't help but grin, assuming she was just playing around, yet her expression remained completely earnest. "I'm launching a second location across town, a cozier place, but it's all mine. Looking for a brave soul to take the wheel. Are you in or what?" I stood there, spatula poised, while the burger crackled away like it was auditioning for a cooking show. Toi? Open a cozy little eatery? I went from washing dishes to whipping up meals, but running an entire establishment? Now that's a leap. "Are you for real?" I inquired, my tone a bit gruffer than I intended. She let out a little snort. "Do I seem like I'm joking? You've got the skills, no doubt about it. Put in the effort, play fair, and keep the complaints to yourself. Just give me a yes or a no." My head was doing somersaults. A year ago, I found myself unceremoniously left at a gas station, completely empty-handed. Well, look at that. Here comes an offer my way. I nearly turned it down, thinking it was just another one of those sneaky tricks, like Chloe's pranks making a comeback. That night, I plopped down on our couch, the one Sienna and I share, gazing at the TV like it was the most fascinating thing in the world, even though I wasn't really paying attention. She waltzed in from a late study session, tossed her bag by the door, and spotted me just lounging there. "What's cooking?" she inquired, playfully tossing her shoes aside. I whispered to her about Jacqueline's offer, as if speaking it aloud could somehow ruin everything. "She's asking me to take charge of her new diner." Sienna flopped down beside me, her knee playfully nudging mine. "So, you're actually considering passing on it?" she said, as if she could see right through me, just like always. I gave a little shrug, massaging my neck with a playful grin. "I don't know. What if I totally mess it up?" She seized my hand, her grip surprisingly strong. "You're practically the boss over there, juggling orders and playing handyman while she's busy shouting at everyone else. Let's just seal the deal, shall we? You've totally got this, no doubt about it." Her words knocked me off my feet, like a playful push I never saw coming. She totally believed in me. Not even for a moment. And that was quite the experience. Weirdly delightful. Chloe would probably laugh, say something like, "You? Oh, a boss?" And her friends would have jumped right in. But Sienna just gave me that unwavering look, and I couldn't help but nodded in agreement. Sure thing, I'll get right on it." She flashed that adorable little smile I adored and rested her head on my shoulder. "But now cut out the sulking. Looks like we have some dishes waiting for us." I twitched, feeling a bit lighter as we tackled the dishes together. Her off-key humming filled the air while I playfully splashed water at her. On the following day, I gave Jacqueline a big yes. She let out a little huff, as if this was all part of the plan, and tossed me a set of keys. "Just don't set it on fire," she quipped, before returning to her cash-counting duties. The new diner was a cozy little nook. 10 tables, a counter, a kitchen so tiny it could barely fit two, but hey, it was my little kingdom to manage. I jumped right into the next week, juggling schedules, ordering supplies, and whipping up meals when the rush hit. It was a hilarious mess at first, with waitresses mixing up orders and me accidentally torching a batch of fries, but I managed to get it all sorted out. Sienna totally nailed it. I've been at this for a while now, just without the fancy label. The place began to buzz with energy, familiar faces filtering in, and Jacqueline even made an appearance, giving a nod as if she was in full support. "Not too shabby, kiddo," she said, and I felt like I was on top of the world for the first time in ages. And just like that, Chloe's email popped up. I was at the new diner, casually scrolling through my phone to check inventory, when suddenly, it appeared out of nowhere. "Hey Mike, your grandma's been on the lookout for you. We'd love to hear from you, just to confirm you're still with us." My stomach did a little dance. Grandmother. She had this adorable habit of sending me cards every week.